As a Democratic caucus, we had a lot of discussion about the package of tax bills that were before us today in the state Senate. We thought that it was important that people understand the rationale why we are opposed to the package of bills, and in the bigger picture, understand what's happening here in Lansing and how it impacts their lives every single day. And so we came together as a caucus and decided to make ourselves available and make sure that the rationale was understood by the media, by the voters, by our constituents, most importantly, as to what is happening here in Lansing. Because I think a lot of people look at what's going on in Lansing and say, there's a lot of activity, but how is it really benefiting me? There's a huge disconnect between what the rhetoric is coming from the majority side of the aisle and what is actually being passed into law. And I think that's what we're seeing here once again. And so I'll turn it over to my colleague, Steve Bita, who is our ranking member on the tax committee.
Thank you, Gretchen. And having served on this committee for not only the 9 months I've been in the state Senate, but the 6 years in the House, I've had some experience with business tax and other taxes that we have in the state. Today we all voted no on this package of bills, which ostensibly modifies and clarifies a bill that passed the Senate and the House and was signed into law by the governor earlier this year. And that bill represented one of the largest tax shifts in Michigan history, a tax shift from businesses to individuals, and put it on the backs of some of the people who are least likely and least able to afford the big tax increases that this passed through. So rather than be complacent in this action, we voted no on this package of bills because we care about the people in our districts, we care about the future of the middle class, and we want to fight to maintain that middle class status, the working people of this state. I think it's really, really important that we take a very close look at this tax bill that has passed earlier this year. I think the effects of it are going to be pretty dramatic as I talk to individuals in my district, and I think a number of my colleagues agreed with that this was a tax shift of unimaginable proportions and something that we opposed in our fight to protect and preserve the middle class in this state. And with that, I will turn it over to whoever's next on our agenda, Senator Johnson.
Well, thank you for being here today. We've heard a lot about the so-called jobs-killing MBT, and we wanted, very frankly, outside of voting no for these tax bills today, we wanted also to underscore the fact that we believe Michiganders, particularly those who are doing business in Michigan, have been, for lack of a better phrase or term, lied to about the end of the MBT, and thus you saw us put together an amendment to simply get rid of the MBT rather than see it go on for a number of years, in fact, decades to come. And, you know, it's really part of our overarching theme of making sure that we tell not only the truth to Michiganders, but we speak truth to power related to how this state needs to continue to do business. And if we're going to tell businesses over the last 6 months that we got rid of the MBT, and we're going to see it disguised as Republicans have put it on the, have it come to fruition under really a fallacy or a lie, if you will, then that's just not good politics, and that's certainly not good government. And Democrats have stood strong to tell businesses the truth, to really invite the kind of culture that we believe will foster job growth in this state. And so it's really important that we underscore that Republicans today voted against it, 26-12, and have really said to Michigan that we'll continue to tell this fallacy going forward that we actually got rid of the MBT. Thank you.
In my many years in office, I haven't had such an issue that's been addressed to me on behalf of my citizens, my constituency, like the pension tax. This tremendous shift of financial obligation from the wealthy and the well-positioned on the backs of our seniors is quite compelling. When we see what happened today, we try to discard the MBT, and we tried to alleviate the pain and the suffering from our seniors, our most vulnerable citizens in this state. As we've addressed our constituencies through town halls and other public gatherings over the last few months, it's been brought to our attention this pension tax is probably the most grievous of all the taxes that we've addressed in the last several years here in Lansing, tried to generate resources and revenues for our state. It really wasn't a good piece of legislation a few months ago when it was first enacted. And the Republicans have had several days, and in fact months, to review this policy, and yet nothing happened today. With the bevy of bills that were before us, nothing happened to alleviate or lessen the obligations of our seniors and our pensioners. So there is a philosophical divide here in our state today, and it's continued with the policy that was voted on earlier today, that we are willing as a chamber, as a Senate chamber, to put the complete obligation of financing our schools and health care and roads and transportation on the backs of our pensioners. So it wasn't good, as I mentioned a few weeks ago. It's not good today, and it won't be good in the future. Probably the most troubling component of this pension tax is there's nothing that sunsets this legislation in the future. So those that are of the appropriate age today not to pay this tax, in a few short years they will have to undertake that obligation out of their wallets and pay with their own hard-earned dollars. So this has been wrong. This has been a very grievous attack today on our senior citizens across this state. We shouldn't have done it, but we did.